Alright guys, Rokkr Huke again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, OpTic Tectors have secured Huke services for the rest of the season as we currently understand it, but that may not have been a possibility if somebody else signed him earlier instead. It was a big surprise to many when Huke was not picked up to the CDL this season, especially given that Black Ops 6 seems to be a game that suits his playstyle incredibly well. He's had a good time with OpTic so far. Maybe that will continue as far as OpTic are concerned going into the future, but Huke reveals that Minnesota Rokkr, among other teams maybe, were a possibility in the recent past, and leaking some roster information that could have dramatically changed the landscape of the CDL as we currently see it. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Starting here with Dashy. Of course, this is a pretty mega clip of the intro. This I thought was a pretty funny one. So, yeah, just a little clip here from Kenny's vlog the other day. And it was an interesting vlog that he put out just because this also spans the time where Pred was still with the team. Here's Dashy checking out his new ride. Of course, the Midnight Purple GT3 that he picked up, of course, to kind of match Kenny's GTR, and obviously Nissan GTR, and yeah, good video, good times. I thought there was some funny comments on this clip actually, because, you know, the way that Dashy walks up to the car here, like, I just thought it was pretty funny, and this guy in the replies, Ray, says, yeah, if there was ever a question of whether Dashy is Middle Eastern, because I believe he's of Lebanese origin, Dashy, and, you know, Ray says, if there was any doubt, it's not a thing anymore. I've worked with enough customers buying cars to know that the signature arms behind back as I look with intent to purchase pose is, you know, common in those regions. So, yeah, the way that Dashy walks up to the machine, feel like I've seen this one before, thought it was pretty big, and, you know, Dashy thought that was rather entertaining as well. So, yeah, this guy was locked in, good to see. But the rest of the vlog was interesting because, you know, it obviously Kenny didn't say anything on the transition from Pred to Huke, and, you know, he did come on the camera at some point during the vlog and say, I'm sure you guys have heard the news by now, today we're playing our first match with Huke in the roster, and, but, you know, this was a clip from the vlog earlier on where Pred's right here, and of course, on the wall behind them, to our left as we're looking at this image, that's presumably where the images were, with, you know, where the Pred shot from them winning the World Championship was taken down. Has Shotzzy got a Rubik's Cube next to a desk as well? If he can solve that, you know, Godspeed. I would like to see him try, that's for sure. But yeah, Pred was in the shot, and then obviously a couple of minutes later, Kenny comes on the camera to say, yep, we're playing our first game with Huke, and obviously, understandably, there was no more discussion on the matter, and that's still where we understand it for now. There was this as well that Ken pointed out to me, not OpTic Ken, a different Ken, obviously, but I thought it was a good spot, actually. So if you go to twitch.tv/OpTicGaming, you'll find this, and then you'll find this thing that says team members, and if you click on team members, it'll show you the team members. So, you know, obviously, I'm guessing they just haven't updated this, but we know that Pred has been removed from most OpTic things, but he's actually still on this one. So if you guys go on the left-hand side, you'll see OpTic Gaming, Shotzzy, Dashy. Now, the first thing to note, I guess, here is that Trippy, Lucid, and Lunchbox are all still here. Those, of course, members of the TJHaLy team that are gone. I mean, Lunchbox, I just found this tweet up quickly from the 19th of November when they released him from the organization as a coach of their Halo team. We know that Formal is building that squad with, well, it's Renegade, what is it, Legend and Bound coming in from the SSG roster to form, that's at least the rumor, I think, as it stands. And Lucid and Trippy are gone from the organization in pretty controversial fashion, but, like, they're still here on the list of team members on the Twitch, and we get Lunchbox, we get Karma, Hex, of course, Seabass, TP, Method, Scump, Roger, Diesel, Holly, Pomage, Blake, Quavo, Ken, HyDra, and then Pred. Now, to be fair, they haven't got everyone here because there's no Formal here, is there? Which is kind of surprising. So, I guess the conclusion is they don't keep this up to date very often, which is understandable. I mean, it's team members on Twitch. It's pretty niche, especially because OpTic Gaming as a Twitch channel aren't exactly going live especially often. So I understand why they've not updated this, but to be fair, Pred is still here. Pred is still linked to OpTic. There is at least one piece of evidence that Pred was ever a part of OpTic Gaming, and you know, for now, he is still part of the team members on their Twitch. Is he part of OpTic still? No, obviously he's taken everything out of his bio, but still I thought it was just something to keep an eye on as we get into this Huke stuff in a second. Before we get there, I thought this was kind of entertaining. So this guy says, official statements, legal action against Activision for abusive shadow bans. So I guess the point is that Ricochet, we know this, is misbehaving and some legitimate players are getting shadow banned. This guy is trying to launch a legal claim against Activision as a result. And honestly, like, you know, good luck is all I'll say. But, he says this: as legal counsel representing the interest of numerous players within the Call of Duty community, I wish to inform the public that abusive practices linked to Activision's Ricochet system have been identified. These practices, including unjustified shadow bans, have caused moral and financial harm to many legitimate players without proper justification or transparent procedures. For my part, I've been shadow banned for this amount, rendering me unable to access the game. My account ID is this. In response to these actions, a lawsuit has been initiated against Activision. This legal action seeks to defend the rights of players and demand immediate corrective measures to ensure a fair and transparent gaming environment. To build a strong case, I invite all affected individuals to come forward, give this information. Every testimony will strengthen our collective case. So, this guy's going for a class action. He's not messing around. But, of course, has he actually initiated legal action? Has he just put out a tweet? I don't really know. But, interesting to say the very least. I will say good luck getting anywhere with this. I'm sure that Activision's terms and conditions imply that, we can basically get rid of you at any time for any reason, and that's what they will do. So, this ain't going to go anywhere, but I thought it was pretty funny. Tweet your thoughts in the comments below as ever. But let's talk about this man in the middle. Huke was having a few more words to say on, of course, how he got to OpTic and how things have really transpired over the last few months. Huke was at times maybe the best or certainly the hardest working player on that Seattle Surge team, I would say, last season. They started the year in interesting fashion. iLLeY was very good, then iLLeY was gone, and there was a period where they were woefully bad, and, Arstees was dropping stinker after stinker, respectfully, and Huke was not having great series, but when you listen to the comms, it seemed to me that Huke was like the only guy really trying on that team. They eventually blew up their roster, 04 comes in, they make a couple of changes, Abuzah goes to the role that he should have been in all along, and things get better for them, and Huke was pretty good last season, nothing spectacular, and it wasn't like a massive shock that he was out of the league, but it was still pretty surprising, pretty shocking that Huke ended up out of the CDL at the end of this season. But of course there was definitely a world in which that was not going to be the case. Teams were interested in Huke, and one team especially was potentially going to sign him. This was talked about at the time, but Huke gives a bit more information as to which that team was, of course, and also what Huke wanted to do with that roster. So it raises big questions, what that team would have looked like, how well they'd have been performing, and also what it would mean for the rest of the CDL, especially if Priestahh was to stay competing going into the new year.
Okay, so offseason you don't... Yeah, I don't know. Were you talking to teams? Is there a team you were gonna play with that you can talk about? Or was it kind of just dead air? And
I had one team that I was talking to. But
can you talk about that?
Well, Nick wants his names. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was kind of a known thing, so we could talk about it. Minnesota.
Okay.
Who would the squad have been?
So I never got too far into the talks, but the team that I was in talks with, it would have been me, Gio, Estriel, and we talked about different force, yada yada. I don't know who the fourth would have been. I know who I personally wanted, but obviously it's not up to me. I was wanting Clay. But
Clay?
Oh, damn. Really?
Yeah, that was just me, though. So
Yeah.
Clay, I don't know if Clay will hear this, but that might make him happy a little bit.
Oh, he'll be cheesing.
Yeah.
So was that sort of it as far as teams? After that, it was just like, damn. Like there's...
So on the 1st of October, Ronnie tweeted this out. The expected Minnesota Rokkr team was going to be CleanX, Gio, Estriel, and Huke. Now, there were big rumors even around this time as well that they were initially going to go for like Arcetes maybe, and CleanX or Arcetes and Gio or something like that was maybe going to be the plan. And there was a bit of backlash against that just because the community was not particularly believing that Arcetes deserved just to walk into another spot. Whether that's fair or not, I do believe that affected their decision. I think they probably made the right decision anyway on some regards, but Looney, I think, had to, when people were roasting the Arcetes rumor, I think Looney was in the chat kind of like having to defend his decision on some regards, and then he obviously decided to go down a different route, and CleanX was the man that they wanted. So pretty interesting, because Huke was going to be on this team. Gio and Estriel were locked in, they are locked in, they are there. But instead of Huke, they eventually, of course, got Nero. And it's Nero and Estriel as the SMG pairing over there on the Rokkr. Nero was actually not even going to be available. He, of course, was meant to be joining Cloud9, was the rumor. and then they got rid of him. They brought in Mack instead. Mack was probably a player that Rokkr wouldn't have got. And of course, he's done very well, Mack, so far this season in the matches he played so far for Cloud9, although as a team, they've not been looking spectacular by any means. But Mack, of course, a player that Sib and Accuracy and those guys know. So it's understandable why they signed him to Cloud9, but I don't think he's a player, Mack, that Rokkr would really have gone for. And whether that would have been a mistake on their part is a question. But as soon as basically they got rid of Nero for Mack on the Cloud9 team, then Minnesota Rokkr decided, well, Nero's the man to get, and it meant that Huke really just fell out of options. So whether that's fair or not, I mean, I rate Nero highly. I think on his day, he's an incredibly impactful player, and I don't dislike the pickup necessarily. But obviously, Huke could have been here, and very nearly was here. But also, he wanted Priestahh. I do wonder whether that was a part of it, because seemingly Huke was maybe not unhappy with PaulX, but Looney, it seems, and the team at Minnesota Rokkr, they were bringing in PaulX. That was the decision they made after the rumours about Arcetes and the drama that associated with that. So it was going to be PaulX, it was going to be Geo, it was going to be Estriel. And maybe the reason why they didn't lock in Huke as quickly as they could have done was because, you know, maybe Huke he wanted Clay. And that's a really cool thing that Huke wanted Clay back in. Of course, you know, he could have given him an opportunity to stay around the league. Clay wanted to compete on Black Ops 6, but unfortunately never got the possibility to do so. And, you know, he actually said here in the start of September, he had no offers, he might not compete. When the beta, of course, was going down, here we are, back in the day on Skyline, when the map actually looked a little bit different with the pool side and stuff to where it does today. But, yeah, so this was Clay's opportunity maybe to stay around in the league. It's very interesting, though, to note that Ravens are looking very good so far this season, and I always loved Clay as a player, but you know, I will say that certainly in an online perspective, I had my questions on whether, you know, his efficacy was what it once was. And of course, there was speculation on, well, if you were to trade out Clay for Slasher on that Ravens team last year, where would they have been? How good would they have looked? Maybe we're getting a bit of an answer to that so far this season. So, look, as nice as it would have been to see Clay still around the league, I don't necessarily think that, you know, if Huke had his way, would that have been better or worse for the Rokkr? I don't know, maybe they'd have been about the same right now as it stands. And it would have been cool to see that duo together, but of course, Huke was never there, and therefore Priestahh was never there either. But of course, as a result of all that, the possibility was there for Huke to join OpTic, right? And this is the blessing in disguise. And maybe it's worked out for Clay as well. He can coach the Falcons, of course, as he is now doing. Missed out on his 100th Pro Career Tournament, unfortunately, ended on 99. But, you know, would have got it if he made the World Championship last year, famously. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But Huke was therefore available. Had he joined the Minnesota Rokkr, you know, OpTic may not have got him. They may have tried anyway. They may have had to pay a buyout to get his services, but it was such a no-brainer for OpTic with the Pred situation going down to get Huke, given his history and the fact that he was a completely free agent from the league. So, you know, a bit surprising maybe that Rokkr didn't pull the trigger on this. Maybe a bit surprising that nobody else, when Huke was an absolute god online at the start of the season and Black Ops 6 didn't pull the trigger either. And just to look at Priestahdh's LAN card, was very good last season on the Ravens, but, you know, not good enough, I guess, to convince Looney that Huke's idea was the correct one. But very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.